What's going on, guys? Fun of Thighs back again, and it's finally time for me to do the review on the WE Knives Nitida. And I know a couple of you guys have been waiting for quite some time for me to do this, and I do apologize for that, Aaron. But Aaron will be glad I'm doing this because it's going to go off to him fairly soon. But I purposely waited a long time. I wanted to get as much pocket time, as much cutting done with this blade as I could before I reviewed it. I really wanted to get comfortable with it because, and you guys saw this in the unboxing video, I was pretty impressed. I mean, I kind of had a honeymoon phase going on with this thing that lasted quite a while. I wanted to get over that before I did the review, and that brings us to now. So let's get the specs over with, and we'll talk about this thing in all of its greatness, which you guys will see here very shortly. So we have a 3.5-inch blade here. Your cutting edge, though, is only 2.875, so less than 3 inches of cutting edge. That's coming from your large forward finger choil. Your handle length is 4.5 inches, making your overall length 8 inches, which is honestly around my favorite size for a normal everyday carry knife without a specific purpose or intent behind it. Just kind of your everyday kind of knife. This is my favorite size, just about. Blade thickness on this guy is 0.16 inches at its thickest point, and to me it doesn't look like that. I mean, I don't know if I have an example for you guys. Yeah, this Kershaw Launch 1 here is 0.12 inches thick, and they look fairly comparable, but that is because the Nitida has somewhat of a crowned spine, and honestly a nice distal taper that's bringing the point to a fine, bringing this to a fine point, and it's fairly thin behind the edge as well, so a good grind on this. Blade HQ actually has some new stats for us. So blade width at its widest point is 1 1/8 inch. Handle width at its widest point is 1 1/4 inch, and your handle thickness here is 0.53 inches. Now, the weight on this guy, 4.2 ounces, which is honestly right in the range that it should be given its size and its materials. It's fairly light, but it's not extremely light, nothing to really talk about there. Now, the materials used in the blade here are very familiar to a lot of you. I just cleaned this, sorry guys, I still got some water and crap in there. S35VN, crucible steel, an improvement on S30V, and I think we all pretty much like it. It's pretty damn good at just about everything. It doesn't corrode easily, it's got good edge and wear resistance. I mean, it's a good steel overall, and it's a powdered metallurgy, and it's fitting for the price point. But really, this blade is excellent in execution. It's got, again, that nice distal taper coming down to a thin point, but not ultra thin that you're going to be worried about breaking it too often, and has somewhat of a full flat grind. I mean, it's a saber grind, but it's almost a full flat, and it comes down to a decently thin edge. Now, it's not the best slicer in the world, but it sure as hell beats, you know, some overbuilt flippers that I have as far as slicing capability. Now, this is a stonewash grind version. You can see the swedge there, stonewash. The entire grind is stonewash, and then you have some very shiny satin flats, which WE Knives is pretty damn good at doing those two-tone blades, and this is no exception. And like most WE Knives, this comes in a variety of different, I don't want to say colorways. This is actually fairly limited as far as color goes, but there is a couple of different options out there. There's ones that have kind of a PVD or a DLC coating two-tone blade, and then my favorite is actually the ones that have a kind of tumbled bolster here, or the bronze anodized tumbled bolster, which is, it looks really cool with the contrasting carbon fiber. But pick your flavor. The blade performs the same, and it is spectacular. I don't really know else how to put it. It's almost a spear point in silhouette, but it performs just like an excellent drop point with just enough belly, a nice thin tip, and it's really good at everything I've put it through. And like I said, I've put it through a lot. Now, let's look at the action here, because this is something a little different for me. This has got a stiff detent, and I'm not talking overly stiff where it's going to hurt your finger if you flip this more than once. It's nice and positive. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Here, break that detent and then really lock open securely. I'm in love with that detent. I don't really have a preference when it comes to, you know, strong or weak. As long as it's not too weak or too strong, I'm pretty much okay with it, as long as the action's good and reliable. I mean, you want it to open up every time, but this action is just, again, incredible. every Wii knife that I've handled has an excellent action, and this is no exception. So I'll show you guys a close-up of this flipper here. It's got a hole drilled through it for a little bit of aesthetic flair, but other than that, it's fairly normal in execution. It's got some jimping up on top, and I think it's kind of set up for a light switch, but you can push button it. I prefer a different shape flipper, I think, if I was to design my own knife or something, but I cannot argue with the results that you're getting from this. And along the back of the handle here, it's just a nice soft landing point right in this ridge. So excellent flippability, if you want to call it that. Action is impeccable. Ceramic ball bearings, ceramic detent, what we're kind of used to seeing from Wii, but again, it's done very well. This is a titanium frame lock, and this has a, again, PVD DLC black coating. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the milling and stuff first and the carbon fiber, but really this coating is spectacular. I don't know how else to put it. It almost looks like there's no wear. I mean, there's a slight bit of wear on the clip, just on the edges here, but this is no cheap coating. This is no paint or anything like that. It's performed really well. And I'm guessing this is the same exact or very similar to the coating that they're putting on their blades of the same variety. So really the coating here is impressive. Now we do have Wii's proprietary Star hardware that you do get the tool for. I think it flows well with this design. I don't think it flows well with every one of their designs, but I think it looks pretty good here. You got kind of a dark bronze anodization on the hardware. You can see just a single screw for the clip there, a couple of body screws, and then a couple of screws holding on or help holding on this carbon fiber overlay as well. And then you see your nice Wii knife's pivot that kind of has that satin. It's not a pivot collar, but it kind of acts as that, as an accent to the kind of satin finish flipper tab and the flats. You see your external stop pin here. Lockup is extremely secure. I mean, we wouldn't expect anything less. And it does have a steel lock bar insert with an over travel stop. Now, blade centering was and is perfect. I mean, has not wobbled even a little bit. I haven't done anything as far as maintenance to this knife. Really, the only thing I've done is used it and wiped off the blade. I think I stropped it once. And speaking of edge retention, this S35 VN performed very well with the edge that Zelric put on this. You can see it's still fairly uniform and shiny. It probably deserves a good strop after some of the use I've been putting it through over the last couple of days. But performance-wise, this thing is great. Now, before I tell you guys everything I like about the knife, let's talk about a couple of quirky things I'm not in love with. Now, to me, this has sort of a, almost dropped it, a serpentine sort of look. And the reason I say that is because the handle has this kind of reverse S curve going on to it. It's very slight, and I like the aesthetics of it and the ergonomics for the most part. You're getting a fairly substantial thumb ramp here with some, we'll call it minimal jimping. It's nice and soft. It's not really grabby, but it does provide somewhere for your thumb to land. And of course, you can reach over that if you need to do some draw cuts. And the forward finger choil works nicely. And I'm thinking about making a video on forward finger choils in general, because I honestly don't seem to use them a lot. I think they're extremely useful, but I honestly forget that I have them on a lot of knives when it would really improve my performance to use the knife like this. And I'm really not worried about jumping up on that edge a whole lot, even though that's just kind of where the the sharpened part of the steel starts. I mean, I haven't had an issue. I have used it purposely to see if it works, and it does. The ergonomics are actually pretty good. Now, my ergonomic qualm here is this little ridge right here, and it's nothing serious. It's kind of nitpicky because I like this knife that damn much. Sneak preview of the end of the video here. This big scallop here is meant for your two first fingers, your index and your middle finger, and it fits decently, but I don't have abnormally large or, I don't know, thick fingers or anything. My middle finger often rests right in the middle of here. And that's honestly a complaint I have with the Spyderco Endura too. It's got a similar design feature like that. And I don't get it. I wish this would just be more of a smooth transition rather than that ridge here. It's kind of a hot spot, but not really. It's just something kind of annoying. So let's get back to the good stuff here. This is, I don't know if you call this a faux bolster or this is a real one, but you have this really nice carbon fiber scale on this thing. And the carbon fiber is completely devoid of pitting or anything like that. It seems very high quality. And just like all the other Wii knives I've handled, the fit and finish on this is awesome. I mean, the milling is great. You got kind of this chevron here that matches the bolster on the other side, and then this flowing line through the titanium and the carbon fiber is just awesome. Everything is nicely, I don't even want to say chamfered off, it's completely rounded off. I mean, there's not even a designated chamfer on a lot of it. It's just, it's almost like this was made out of easy to machine cheap aluminum or something, how well the titanium is crafted on the Nitida. It's actually freaking impressive. But ergonomics wise, other than this little spot here, it's great. It's not too thin, it's not too thick, and it works well in the hand in a variety of grips. Now, the clip on this guy, kind of standard issue for Wii knives. It's, you know, it's going to carry fairly deep. There's enough there to grab out it, you know, grab it out of your pocket. It's minimal, but it does have these 3 lines in it that match, which is really cool. See those 3 lines here? They match perfectly with the lines kind of milled into the back of the, whoa, stuff falling over there, the back of the blade here. And that milling is actually the jimping, which is kind of a cool feature. I don't know if I love the 3 lines or anything, but it definitely embodies the Wii knife logo a little bit, and it works pretty good. And honestly, this is a little bit of a traction point to extract the knife out of your pocket, to put your finger right there and yank it out. Like I said, hardware is the star, and they have a titanium backspacer here with a lot of ribbing on it. I don't know if I call that jimping, but it has some ribbing around it and a little lanyard loop, which should fit paracord if you needed to. I haven't thrown a lanyard on this one, but I think it flows well with the design. Now, there's something else I don't quite understand on this knife. And this gets back to that serpentine thing I was kind of talking about. Wow, this is going to be a long video. This thumb ramp, this raised portion of the blade almost seems like it's a tiny bit offset. If you see what I'm saying, it's not directly in line with the handle, it's a little offset. And if you look, I don't know if I can actually get this, inside, you're not even relatively close to touching that edge. They could move that edge, I mean, a millimeter or two towards the back of the handle, and I think that would minimize either, you can choose here, either the pocket footprint that you're going to have here. You can kind of sink the blade farther into the handle, and I'm not sure why they didn't do that, or you could extend the grind on this thing. Imagine if the secondary bevel here was 2 millimeters this way. The whole thing, the blade was just slightly broader. The grind traveled a slightly longer distance to come down to a keener edge and make it just a little bit better of a slicer. Even though it's a good one already, I mean, it would still have the same footprint, or you could just sink that handle in just a little bit. Now, I'm no knife maker or, anybody that's going to, really understand the intricacies of designing a knife, but I think they could have done a little bit better with that as far as efficiency, even though I just made the video on the efficiency trap, and that's what reviewers are constantly searching for. It was just something I thought I'd note there. So let's quickly go over the cons for me. I don't love the flipper shape, even though it works very well. This little hump in the blade is just not my cup of tea, or in the handle. And I think the blade could have been a little bit better done as far as efficiency goes. But other than that, this thing is a solid home run. And I will go as far to say that this is my favorite Wii knife to date. It just is. It works so well as an EDC knife. It's a great size, it's great blade shape, it has great just usability. You can move your hand all over the knife. It's easy to operate. It's got a nice descent. It's not going to come flying out when you don't want it to. It's very positive. It's very strong. And it looks classy. It's not the prettiest knife I own, but it looks good while having that much functionality. And that's why I think the Nitida is the best Wii knife that I've seen so far. And that's, it's coming up against some pretty stiff competition in the 605 and the 609 I have in for a little overview. And those are good in their own ways, and I'm still doing a little bit of testing with them. But as far as an EDC knife goes, if you want to dip your foot into the higher end of the Wii knife spectrum, this is going to cost you around $250. The Nitida is one awesome choice. So thanks for watching, guys. As always, if you guys are Nitida owners, let me know what you guys think of yours in the comments. If you don't like this one, tell me why. I'd love to hear it. I know we all don't have the same preferences when it comes to blades. So again, thanks for watching, and remember, have fun with your knives.